has been now 2 weeks since conservative activist Charlie Kirk was fatally shot, and in the days since his death, his legacy has come into question several times. Some remember comments made by Kirk as racist, misogynistic, and homophobic. Others have called him a martyr. There's a growing number of millennial and Gen Z men in particular, both in the U.S. but also here in Canada, who are turning to conservative politics. But it's a change. According to self-reported data from the Canadian Election Study, in every federal election since 2015, young men overwhelmingly voted for left-leaning parties. Now, that changed and shifted into 2021. A poll conducted by Abacus Data in late March suggested 41% of men under 30 backed the Conservatives. 34-year-old Michael Przybyl is one of those men that changed sides. He's a firm supporter of conservative politics, but he says it wasn't always that way, and he joins us now via Zoom. Hi there, Michael.
Good morning.
So tell me a little bit about some of the changes there politically for you. You voted Liberal until about a decade ago, you've shared with us. Why did you shift? What shifted for you?
I think for me, it was mostly growing up into the adult force, workforce, and family life.
And what do you mean by that? What kinds of things were going on in your life that made you that maybe conservative messages versus liberal messaging, so to speak, resonate with you more?
Well, I graduated high school in '09, and I attended university. And I think university at that time for me was more heavily left-leaning. And so a lot of ideals and teachings was taught on the left side in university. And as I started dating, joining the workforce, getting married, having a child, that all shifted more to the right as I more understood and watched the House of Commons. And I just got that policy understanding of where I kind of leaned more to the right than to the left.
Yeah. When you were in university, then, as you said, making this transition into adulthood, as everyone does those ages, and then you said becoming a father, getting married. Did you feel validated somehow by some more of the messaging you heard coming from the right than the left? Did you feel more seen somehow?
I think that's the best way to put it. I think when I was a bit younger, coming straight out of high school, 20-year-old, I think we're innately born left. I think it's something that we're more progressive, more understanding. And as soon as you enter the real world, I guess in a sense where you have to pay taxes, you understand your money, you learn about the government, you have families, you start businesses, then you start to understand the economics of the world and how it's a dog-eat kind of world, how you have to succeed on your own 2 feet. And in order to proceed that far in life, you start to shift your values and becomes more to the right slowly over time.
I mentioned Charlie Kirk and his legacy and how different people are viewing him. What do you think his legacy is?
I think he's a martyr. I believe he had very strong conservative values. I didn't agree everything that Charlie Kirk said. I don't think everyone can agree with somebody 100% all the time. But I think he's a conservative martyr. And I think what he spoke for held within me. His assassination, I think, was awful. I think everyone has the freedom of speech. I mean, even what's his face, Jimmy Kimmel, also spoke negatively about Charlie Kirk. But I mean, everyone has the freedom of speech. It's just that no one has the freedom of consequences, right? And I think the consequence of death, I think, is unacceptable for anyone. I think, we have the law. I think that's the best way to go about, dealing with somebody you disagree with. I just saw recently one of our ministers is trying to pass new hate laws or hate, I guess, in this country, which, I don't 100% agree with. I think that's a bit of a freedom of speech constriction. I believe in persecution, persecution, if you're being persecuted, I think that's 100% not right? That's illegal. But when you start talking about this freedom of speech and whatnot, I think there's also should be some consequences if somebody disagrees or feels harassed or persecuted.
That hey, you're just because your mic cut out there. I just want to
Yeah,
reiterate. You were talking about the federal legislation that's looking at hate speech laws, just because
yeah,
a word was missed. You have
yes.
also called Charlie Kirk, though you've just said you didn't agree with everything he talked about and stood for.
Mm,
You have also
mm,
called him a role model. What did you
mm.
what did you agree with him about in terms of seeing him as a role model?
I think on the terms of economics and government policies, I would agree with him 100%. I think on some personal values, I don't agree with 100%. At the beginning of time, I'm not quite sure what his religious religion was, and so I didn't agree with him on his religion basis. As I myself am a Roman Catholic, so I didn't agree with him on some religion perspectives. But over time, it seemed like he did shift. But I didn't follow him throughout his entire career. I followed him mostly in his early and middle years of his career. Um, but I could see that he was slowly transitioning his religious ideals as well.
Um, Obviously, you know that there are the people that view Charlie Kirk differently, have concerns about some of the things that he said that have
Mm,
been described and have been anti-immigrant,
mm,
homophobic, misogynistic, racist, even.
mm.
Um, what do you say to those people, or would that fall into the category of what you disagree with around what you heard from him?
I think that everyone, especially Charlie, I think everyone in this country and in the United States, I think they can say whatever they want. In terms of homophobia, I mean, in the Roman Catholic Church, you know, it is what it is. But we can treat everyone with respect. Everyone, people can um, not come to the same conclusions. You know, we may have disagreements, you know, but we treat everyone with respect. I think that's what Charlie was trying to do. And I think there's sometimes some misunderstanding where how he views the world, someone might disagree with. But I mean, if we all agreed with somebody, if we all agreed with everybody, then, you know, life would be boring, right? You know, you need to have a good a counterpoint to somebody else. So sure, I mean, some of the things he said, some people could view it like that. I can agree. But he's entitled to say what he wants and how he feels. But at the end of the day, you know, we can't all agree on something. And his message, maybe some might disagree, but his message stood with a lot of people, so that can say a lot of things. It speaks volume.
Let me ask you about some people where the message resonated. You heard me talking,
Mm,
Michael, when I introduced you about some of the statistics around men specifically. Why do you
mm.
think that Charlie Kirk and other conservative influencers are resonating so well with young people and especially men right now?
I think, especially with young white men, especially, they feel a lot of um, resentment. I think with this, I don't think the left itself is a problem. Left, right, it doesn't matter. Everyone has their own views. I think it's more on this extreme side where you have also the extreme right and you also have the extreme left. I think you have a lot of these people on the extreme left, especially online, um, where they are putting down young white men, trying to get them to achieve certain standards that are just awful. Like, you know, it's disrespectful. So I think that these young men are especially on the internet and they're seeing a small echo chamber of extreme leftism, and it's pushing them further to counter that, right, to the right. So I think that's mostly what the issue is
Can
with
you
young white men.
can you tell me what you mean about they feel um, that they have to meet? I wrote this down. You said certain standards, like what? And I'm wondering whether or not that resonates with you. Like a pressure is how you're describing this.
Yeah, yes and no. I think a lot of virtue signaling has been going on for the past few years, and I call them good boy points or gold stars. Um, Everyone can have their own opinions and hold them to themselves. I don't think everyone has to hold them outwards to show the world, oh, I believe in this, and the other thing, right? Everyone's scale is going to be a bit different, right? So somebody that's on the far left or somebody that's on the far right is going to have a higher scale or a higher value. Oh, you have to believe in this, you have to follow this, you have to love this, all these different criteria. And if you don't follow it or you don't accept it, then you're seeing somebody that opposes them. And I believe that a lot of young men um, are seeing this online and are experiencing this in life, especially in universities. Some of my younger friends are in university right now, and they're telling me how they're being treated, right, versus other groups of people where they're not sought after in school groups or in group projects, right? They don't want to be associated with them. They see them as racist or see them as somebody that doesn't believe in their virtue signals or whatnot. So I think it's this stigma that's placed on them by the left or the far left that's pushing them further to the right, even though they would agree with them on some topics. But just because they're seen as a white man or just even as a man, they're being pushed more away from people that they would normally agree with.
As a last question, Michael, what do you think the future of conservatism is here in Manitoba?
I think progressive conservatism has become the actual center nowadays. I think liberalism and just leftism in general have shifted further to the left, in my opinion. I think especially if you see this new progressive conservative party with Pierre Poilievre, he's definitely shifted his image, if you've noticed, from 2019 to recent, to reach a broader voting base. And so I believe that conservatism has gone a little bit more to the center, and the future of the party itself, I guess, is just of common sense. They value people who work hard. They value people who want to start their own businesses, start their own families, people who want small government, who don't want too many taxes and a variety of, fingers in the pie. I think that's where modern conservatism is going.
Oh, we'll leave.
However, but there's also a more extreme conservatism also brewing as well. So that's the point. That's the point, is that when things start to scale to the left, and a harder right also comes as well.
Thank you very much for sharing your perspective today. Really appreciate having you with us on CBC.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me.
That is Michael Przybyl, young conservative here in Manitoba. Of course, his response to the last question was around federal conservatism. We certainly will have him back on the program.